Yo, what's going on? It's Joe back here again with another one on Joe Talks. And yeah, back here talking about another serious topic, another war kind of topic. For those of y'all who don't know, Venezuelan has been supposedly shipping, which honestly, in my opinion, I see it being true. Supposedly their prime minister, president, whatever they are over there, was so-called helping them do it. So they were sending drugs over here in the States, and obviously selling in the States, and obviously fentanyl and all that, cocaine and all that, ends up killing people. Say you do too much, and it's an illegal drug. It shouldn't be sold or consumed here anyways. But supposedly Venezuelan and their government, they were, supposedly supporting it. So for those of y'all who don't know, President Trump recently ordered he didn't order. There was a boat smuggling drugs coming here to the States, and he cooked them, like literally fried them. So for those of y'all who don't know, the video's up everywhere. You could look it up. The boat literally got fried, lit up like a Christmas tree, and hey, man, that was literally to send a message like, hey, anyone else who wants to try this, that's what's going to happen, and then Venezuelan, and then also, wait, hold on, backtrack for just a little bit. Trump also sent destroyer ships and submarines over there towards Venezuelan in their waters. And then in retaliation, Venezuelan, if y'all didn't hear about this, flew over some of the U.S. ships, So supposedly, they didn't appreciate the U.S. doing what they did. So I'm not sure if the government really is supporting it, but who knows? And yeah, and then honestly, ever since then, Trump sent more jets down to Puerto Rico to help out. He sent more subs, I think, and more ships, more troops. So honestly, what's gonna happen? I don't know. I will say this though, Venezuelan did come out and say that, hey, we're good. We can handle our own problems. We're on the drug issue. We don't need help. So that honestly, seems like they might be tightening up. Hopefully, because I'm gonna be honest, man. Say Venezuela and the U.S. go at it, you know. Say it's just Venezuelan and they have no help, but they're gonna have help. But say they have no help, Venezuelan's gonna be cooked. I'm just being honest. Venezuelan's gonna is gonna become another U.S. territory. That's just facts. But the thing that I'm concerned about is, say they do go into conflict. You also got to worry about what is it? You got to worry about China and Russia, because they're backed by China and Russia. Say you didn't watch my previous vid about the China summit. I talked about the world leaders being there, and Venezuelan. I didn't mention them in the video, but Venezuelan was one of the countries also at the summit. So I mean, who knows? Say the U.S. does engage. Who wouldn't be surprised if there was some China and Russia support? I wouldn't be surprised. But it's just something to look out for. Something to keep an eye out on. Pots are boiling. Tensions are boiling. Everything is, heating up. And then the U.S. also came out recently with a statement. I'm not sure when I'm going to upload this, but I'm recording this Tuesday, the week of the 8th, I believe. I'm not sure what today's date is. I think it's the 9th. So, but yeah, they recently published saying that they're going to pivot away from foreign issues. So like so the U.S. is still gonna support. The U.S. is still selling weapons to the EU to give to Ukraine. But the U.S. Came out saying they want to stay out of foreign, conflicts, but they do want to help if they can in any way, but they want to stay out of it, which honestly I agree with. We shouldn't be getting into foreign people's wars and messes, especially if it's not on our continent. But yeah, he said they're gonna pivot away and focus, because honestly, man, we got a lot of issues going on with the States. We got a lot of issues here, a lot of countries, like Venezuelan, Mexico with the drugs coming in, Canada too, China with the drugs coming in. We got a lot of our own issues to deal with other countries. So, they recently came out. Trump saying that they're going to pivot. I didn't see Trump saying it himself, but it came from the White House saying that, hey, they're going to just pivot and focus more on issues here, which is a good thing. We should focus on issues here. And then obviously, say stuff does get worse over there with the Russia and Ukraine war. Obviously, I see the U.S. stepping in and helping. But I mean, you also got to watch China with Taiwan. You know, China, yo, if y'all didn't watch that China military parade, the China summit, man, that was crazy in my opinion. Man, all them weapons they had, all them guards, all the troops, it was crazy. So to see all that military power, China's not just doing that just to, have it stored up and collect dust, and show it off here and there. China, is doing that to, to honestly use it. What you think? So, I wouldn't be surprised if China is preparing for a Taiwan invasion. The U.S. also has to watch that because, we unfortunately watch over Taiwan because they because that's where all the chip manufacturing is. And say China gets Taiwan, that pretty much compromises all the chips in all our technologies. Here in America, all the cars, everything uses chips that Taiwan makes. That's why, with Trump's tariffs, Taiwan bringing the chip manufacturing here, that's good because, we say anything does happen in the future with China and Taiwan, with wars or anything, we'll be able to have chip production here, instead of, being screwed and out of chips because of what's going on over there. But, at the end of the day, the U.S. is still going to protect Taiwan. We have to watch that. Just a lot of tensions are boiling and brewing. And I'm curious to see what goes on. Like the main tension is the Russia and Ukraine war, but that summit, man, with all them leaders there, they didn't. I don't know, man. There's a lot that could happen. There's a lot that could happen. A lot of nuclear powers, a lot of big military power countries. Like it's I don't know. It's looking kind of messy. But this is just a quick vid, just touching up on this. I'm curious what anyone else thinks. But yeah, I don't know. It's not looking good. But honestly, I see Venezuelan, cracking down on the drugs, and I see the U.S. not moving in unless there's a complete flip. Because like I said, Venezuelan did come out saying that they're cracking down on the drug shipments and all that. So maybe they're actually going to start helping. So maybe instead of them being like, oh, we don't need your help, maybe the U.S. and Venezuelan can collaborate, like there ain't nothing wrong with that, But yeah, just gonna have to find out. Me personally, I don't see anything happening, but it's just something to think about, It's just something to think about. And then you obviously see how the peace talks are going, and by going, I mean not happening. It seems like Putin, played another game, like, hey, Trump, man, that's the one thing I'm saying, man, throw them sanctions on, man. Why are you waiting so long? And I feel like he's waiting for a reason. I feel like if we throw sanctions on, who's to say China doesn't jump in, who's to say, North Korea doesn't jump in, there's just so many things that could happen. Cause like, why hasn't he thrown the sanctions on? Why does he keep delaying it? Because to be honest, say the peace talks weren't reached by the deadline, because they had a deadline about a week ago. Say they weren't reached by that deadline. That next morning, I'm adding the sanctions on. Why has he still not put them on? I don't know. I feel like there's a reason. I feel like if he does, that might trigger another. Who knows? There's just so many things to think about. But honestly, that's like the worst case scenario. The real case scenario is I see him throwing sanctions on. I see it crippling Russia. And I see Russia eventually giving in unless they get help. That's what I'm saying. That summit they had, the China summit, Russia was there, obviously. North Korea was there, obviously, two really big military and nuclear powers, I don't really want to say North Korea's crazy big, but I know they got some weapons, and they got some troops. So, who's to say when he throws sanctions on, that doesn't trigger, China to jump in or North Korea to jump in? Who knows? because sanctions would cripple Russia, because at that point they'd have no money coming in. They wouldn't be able to pay anyone. The country would literally go under. They would literally have to stop, because they wouldn't be able to, purchase weapons anymore. They wouldn't be able to buy parts to make weapons. The whole country would literally be crippled with sanctions. That's why I'm saying I don't know why Trump is waiting, but I feel like there's a reason he's waiting, and who knows. But I'm kind of rambling now. But that's gonna wrap the vid up. Say you haven't checked out my previous vids around these topics, they'll be up on screen. And if you enjoyed the vid, like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. And catch y'all later. Peace.